In B2B enterprise marketing, the competition is so fierce, but in the e-mobility and the EV charging industries, I think people are understanding that the industry is very young, it's still maturing, the market is still growing, and they're united among common challenges. I have attended electric vehicle symposiums in California, in Oslo, in other places. And you see how the European e-mobility industry is going, they're sharing the insights. And one thing that totally surprised me is that EV charging is probably one of the few industries where North America and US are behind Europe in terms of the development and the innovation. So that was something that really surprised me at the beginning.
Welcome to another episode of the eMobility Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Theo, and today we're diving into the world of B2B marketing in the EV charging industry. I'm joined by Baycho Georgiev, CMO of AMPECO. AMPECO is one of the leading providers of EV charging management software, working with charge point operators, utilities, and energy companies across the globe. Under Baycho's leadership, AMPECO has built a strong marketing foundation that supports their international growth. In this conversation today, we'll talk about how AMPECO approaches B2B marketing, what role events and sponsorships play, and the lessons Baycho has learned from scaling marketing in such a competitive space. Welcome to the show, Baycho. It's great to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Theo. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. Baycho, could you start with a brief introduction about yourself and how your work at AMPECO?
For the listeners and the viewers of the podcast, my name is Baycho. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer at AMPECO, and I've been part of the e-mobility and EV charging industry for already 5 years, building the marketing organization here at AMPECO and driving all the community and all the industry towards more results and I would say utilization. So I have a strong background in demand generation, product marketing, and also branding in the last 15 years. But for the last 5 years, I've been strongly part of the e-mobility and EV charging industry, and I'm really enjoying working on the marketing side here because I see lots of opportunities, both in B2B, but also in B2C marketing, talking about software, talking about hardware, marketing to EV drivers, marketing to charge point operators. That's been my passion for already 5 years, and happy that we're just starting and the industry is very new.
Yeah, that's how we all feel, right? We've been doing a lot of work over the past couple of years, but we're still at the beginning. There's so much more to do. So, Baycho, let's start with the big picture. If we're looking at marketing software in our industry, how is that different from hardware? Is there anything you can share on that? What's your experience?
In the EV charging industry, hardware and software are going hand by hand. They should be compatible. They should be working together. They should be working seamlessly. I would say that software should have lots of hardware partnerships as well as hardware should work with all softwares because they cannot provide a seamless unified experience for the EV drivers if they cannot do it. But from a marketing perspective, I would say it's very different because first of all, it's from an investment perspective and from cost and price sensitivity, I would say. And the other one is the critical importance for the business of a charge point operator or an e-mobility service provider. And also there are different B2B and B2C tactics that are employed there. And if we're talking about channels, marketing channels and tactics, software and hardware are utilizing different ones and are having and experiencing different reach so that they can easily attract and reach a bigger audience or a smaller audience, depending on how niche they are and to whom they will need to sell.
Right. And you also mentioned like there's a lot of partnerships involved, also in marketing, I would assume. Like to me, in B2B marketing is also about building trust with those partners and with your audiences. Is there anything you can share like about your vision on how to build trust in our industry?
Building trust in the EV charging industry is important. You will hear lots of people, especially EV drivers and also charge point operators, talking a lot about reliability. They're talking about uptime. So this is the concept that it doesn't work and it just works, or it should work better. This applies both to software and also to hardware. But the EV driver experience is the one that goes to the charge point that is charging its car, and they just want it to work. They do not want to have the hurdles, the challenges. They do not care whether this is the hardware or it's the software. It's the experience and the perception of the brand where they're charging. So I would say that it's a joint responsibility of the charge point operator, the software backend provider, and the hardware provider to provide this unified, reliable experience for the EV driver. Building trust from a software point of view and from, I would say, a backend provider like AMPECO to our clients, our ideal customer profiles, the charge point operators, is very important because the backend is the critical backbone of a charge point operator business. So you can connect different hardware charge points. You need to have all the foundations and all the features out of the box in order to apply all your use cases. You need the flexibility in order to build your differentiation. You need the ability to create custom EV driver experiences. You need to create special value proposition for fleet managers, for other types of clients that you want to approach. So it's very important that you're ticking all the boxes when they're evaluating and you're part of the short list that you want to go to a big enterprise client, for example, and win their trust. You need to excel at every touch point, at every marketing channel, online and offline, and you should be there performing your best and presenting your brand in the best possible way. And we should not remember, and I'm sure we're going to talk about brand versus demand later, but every touch point is a brand touch point, and every touch point is a demand touch point as well. So we shouldn't all underestimate any touch point that we have with our potential customers.
And what's, in your opinion, Baycho, the balance there? Like talking about lead generation, demand generation versus branding, like it's all a big mix, of course, and all of these topics are important, but what should be the main focus for a company running marketing in B2B? It's about building that trust. It's about connecting with your audiences. What's the main tactic there that you would apply?
It's very important, from my opinion, to be very aware of the growth stage and the stage of the company and the software that you are working. So here we need to have in account lots of factors. We need to talk about different markets. We need to talk about the level of product market fit and the maturity of the software. We need to talk about the brand credibility and the brand awareness already earned and how it amplifies your demand generation efforts. So I would say that if you are still in the beginning, you still need to invest in your brand, but you still need to get traction. That's one of my favorite books that talks about business lead generation and early stage startups. So you need to get traction, but your brand is still unknown. But you as a marketing team, or you as a head of marketing director, you need to bring leads. They need to be converted. You need to go through the whole buying journey with them and convert them. Because if you do not have traction, you will not have a budget for next year. So when you're starting, lead generation is your top priority. So you're underestimating brand. But when you grow and you're already earning the trust, of your customers, all this trust translates to your brand, translates through the publicity of your clients, through the success stories of your clients, of they sharing and spreading the word about you, that you are excelling at what you do, how good the software is, how nice the people are, how supportive they are, how they go the extra mile for the clients, so that your clients are ready to recommend you, to give you a public client announcement, a public case study, and talk about their success, which is enabled by your software. And this is how brand is built. And there are lots of other tactics. Of course, you can go and do PR and media. You should do lots of content and thought leadership, presenting the people from your company, humanizing the thought leadership. So it's not the brand that is speaking, it's the people behind the brand that are the knowledgeable ones that are speaking out either in LinkedIn, either in some renowned media outlet that is known in your industry and people are reading it. So these are very important touch points. Then when you get another round of financing and you are earning a lot, you can jump and get some speaking slot at events. You can continue and growing the brand of the company. Yeah, but just going several years ago, you're still not putting billboards. You're not there. There's going to be a time when you are putting billboards, and it depends whether you're a B2C company or a B2B company. So if you are a charge point operator, probably you want to put a billboard that is close or 2 kilometers away before your charging hub. But if you are targeting B2B and you're selling software, billboards would probably not work. Now I'm seeing a great trend that is going, and probably you'll be thinking about that in future when your podcast have 1 million subscribers, that people are sponsoring podcasts because they know that their ideal customer profile is listening to this podcast, and they're putting these brand advertisements in the podcast. They're putting their name out there. So you're kind of sharing 3 different stories before the start of the podcast. So yeah, that's something important.
Yeah, so what I really like in your vision, Baycho, is that you're thinking in these growth stages. So when you start out, there's a different need compared to where you are today as a company. And the other thing that stands out is the thought leadership. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit more. Like, I like what you said, that it's not just the brand, but it's also the people behind it, how nice they are, how they do their work, how they build the relationships with clients and potential clients. How do you achieve that internally? Like, how do you motivate people to become a thought leader for your brand and to get out there and to connect with others and to be aware that, you know, the role they play is super important in the success of the company? Is there anything you can share on that topic?
I think that it's very important to treat every member on the team, either leadership or anyone else, as a brand ambassador or as a personal brand. So there are lots of benefits, and we're running kind of an internal program about it, so that there are people that they talk about what they're doing, what is their job. They're talking about marketing, they're talking about sales, they're talking about lessons learned from their life. And everybody has their own set of topics that they want to speak about. So if you are in sales, you can probably overutilize this thought leadership so that you are trying to get the most out of it, and it's a channel for you to get to do your job. If it's marketing, probably you're amplifying your campaigns, you're getting additional reach, and that's very important. But one thing that has changed for sure in the last 5 to 7 years is that people predominantly want to buy from people, not from brands. So a long time ago, either social media or even in the early days of Web 2.0, people were ready to go to a website. They're not checking the About Us page. They're not seeing who is working there, who is the owner of the business, or who are the investors in the business. They are ready to go and check everything there. But now they want to know who are the people behind the brand, what is the leadership about, what they want to say, what is their vision, what is the product roadmap of the company, what are the other important things. So in enterprise B2B marketing, this is probably getting more and more important, and is one of the things because people want to engage with the decision makers. They want to learn from them. They want to hear it from them. They don't want to read your corporate LinkedIn page. They don't want to watch your videos on the corporate page. They're reading your website, but they need the additional validation from the real people who are going to put their word, and even they're going to sign the contract that you're going to have with.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, like in that sense, how does content come to the mix? Like how do you handle this? Because if you want to build this trust and especially highlight the people from your organization, a lot of content is needed. And there are two sides to that, like from the brand perspective, the content marketing that you run, but also the content that these employees are sharing or these brand ambassadors are sharing. Is that part of the program you're running internally to also feed them with content that they can share, or is this really done by the people themselves?
Content is at the core of everything, I would say, and everybody is a content creator. It's not just that marketing is responsible for the content. So I would say that from my perspective, product marketing is responsible for content. Sales is creating lots of content. I would say pre-sales, solution consulting, everyone that has these insights, that has point of view and that can put a narrative on the market, or they know specifics that are interesting and that are important. So all the people that know the pain points, the challenges, and the solutions to your ideal customer profile should be content creators. Of course, not all of them can be the best writers, the best content writers, but all of them have lots of interesting insights and content that's worth sharing. So the work of the marketing team is to find the right people, the right tools, and the right processes in order to download this information and spread it through different channels. Because content is not longer text. It's not text on your blog, text on your website, or text on your LinkedIn. It's already audio, it's already video, it's already different formats that needs to be repurposed, that needs to be distributed. And let's be honest, everybody can create lots of content now, but it's all about the quality. And now we are entering the era, the marketing era, where taste is going to be the most important marketing skill from now on, so that we can differentiate the quality content from the content that is just written out there and is sharing some high level vague ideas or topics or something like this. Now we're already in this marketing era, and that's the role of the marketing teams in order to calibrate and maintain a high level of quality taste among all the content that goes out of the company. And when I'm going out of the company, I mean the brand, I mean the corporate channels, and I also mean the channels of all people from the company that are sharing content out there. It's a unified voice. This is unified messaging, positioning, everything.
I really like how you're doing this, Baycho. Maybe if I can use this as an example, we organized the CPO marketing masterclass together, the online masterclass that we did. And I remember with your team, like also reaching out to me with content that I could share and all of that, like, and everybody was sharing it in their own authentic ways. And I really liked the setup of that because it became something authentic and something real that people were sharing. And you could see that they really cared about it. And I think that made such a big difference to make sure that whatever is shared from a personal perspective is authentic and that also still aligns with your brand guidelines and the professionality of your brand. And that I can assume that that's a challenge. Like I've been running these ambassador programs in the past as well, and I always ran into the fact that creating the content was a bit of a problem. People knew what to say, but they didn't know exactly how to create a piece of content for LinkedIn or for Twitter at the time. And that's where, the help of a marketing team is needed. Yeah, that's why it's interesting to learn how you handle this. So if I summarize this correctly, people come up with their own authentic ideas and create their own content, but the marketing team helps with professionalizing that, right?
Yeah, I would say it's very important to keep the authenticity and also, how to say, create a unique voice, a unique writing style. Because I think that ghostwriting is something great, but somehow it removes the authenticity of the content creator. So if you keep, and that's the biggest challenge, how you're creating a flow and a process that allows these people to create more in order to post more, in order to get more impressions and more engagement. So, but they still feel authentic. Again, probably sometimes it leads to the person's character and how do they feel about social media, about publicity, about everything. But it's doable. I think that now we have more tools than ever in order to make this happen, and it's a pretty inexpensive marketing channel that's still underutilized by some companies, but also heavily abused by lots of companies as well, which leads to creating tons of content, and you still need to have this filter about the taste that we were talking just before.
So if you look at the content marketing part of the brand, like is there let's talk about that for a moment. So I know that AMPECO you create a lot of content, valuable content for your customer profiles, and that's of course the perfect way to attract them to your brand. But how do you measure success of that? I mean, there are long sales cycles in B2B, so it takes a lot of effort to connect and to build that trust and to in the end convert that prospect to a client. How do you measure success of this? How does that work?
First of all, I would say that content serves lots of marketing purposes. So one thing is that when we talk about thought leadership, when we talk about brand awareness, how we're creating content for PR, how we're creating content for LinkedIn. But then we go and talk about how we create content for lead generation. So content is one thing when we talk about ebooks, white papers, so long format, gated content. Then we start talking about webinars, master classes that we were doing together with Theo. And then there are also other types of content. So then we go and talk about presentations, for example, for the sales team. Then we're talking about blog posts or other types of content, or we're creating content for an event. We're doing a video that is going to be presented at the event and people are watching this. So each type of content, depending on the touch point in the buyer journey, is measured in a different way. But most of the cases, it's origination or attribution. So whether this content is leading us net new contacts or accounts, or it's a touch point attributing to something that we're working on. So we're trying to move these potential accounts from the beginning of the buying funnel to the end of the buying funnel. And I think that every marketing team should be responsible for revenue, and they should be measured by revenue, not by any other metric. So I have unified all of the KPIs and metrics that we are following in content marketing as well as the other marketing teams around revenue, either origination or attribution, because I think that's very important in B2B marketing, enterprise, software and technology companies. And yeah, that's what I would say.
So how do you make sure, because I can see a lot of companies, marketing and sales are not always connected very well. What you just said is basically connecting marketing and sales, right? If marketing also has commercial targets, then that makes a huge difference in the organization. How do you combine that? How do you build that connection between marketing and sales?
I think that that's one of the most important things that should be engraved in the DNA of a B2B marketing company. So if you are having marketing and sales working in silos, working on their own, so that they're not united under one goal, under one North Star, that's gonna be a problem long time. What we've been doing since I joined AMPECO and started building the marketing organization is that since I was the first marketing hire, I've been part of the revenue team. So marketing has always been part of the revenue team. I've been working along the sales leaders, which are now vice presidents of different sales teams, and they're working now. We're working now together. So they're supporting the marketing team with all the insights, with all the information. We're doing campaigns together. We're creating content together. We're supporting them together to become thought leaders. We're working together for events. We're working together for everything. So I would say that marketing is working arm by arm with the sales team, and it's very important. And it's a pleasure to have a sales team that understands the importance of the marketing, and they're not treating marketing like somebody who is just running ads, or they're doing events and everything. So as I'm going back, I would say that even events should be measured by revenue, either origination or attribution.
So yeah, you've highlighted some really interesting aspects of scaling B2B marketing. Let's shift to something very visible in AMPECO's recent strategies. You were the main sponsor at the ICNC, the Intercharge Networking Conference in Berlin this year. What was the thinking behind that investment?
The Intercharge Network Conference is by far the most relevant, niche, and important event in the EV charging industry, I would say, worldwide. Not only in Europe, I'm saying worldwide because this event is already attracting tons of people outside of Europe as well. So probably now is time to say big kudos to Christian Hahn, to Stuart Barnes, and the whole Hubject team that's been doing this for 10 years. And it's amazing that the EV charging industry has such an event that we can attend and we can meet all the people that are there. So doing event marketing is pretty tough, to be honest. And it's a channel that lots of B2B and enterprise companies are staying away from because it requires a lot of investment, it requires a lot of effort, and it's very hard to track the return of investment from these things. But I think that it's a gold mine if you have the playbook and you can utilize it in the best possible way. I would say that event marketing is the one of the very few channels that are combining brand and demand in one place. And it's also serving other parts of the marketing and the sales funnel at the same time. Because you have on a similar event like ICNC, you are having your clients, you're having your partners, you're having your prospects, you're having everyone that you want to speak with you, which is on a different life cycle stage in their journey, and it's very important. And these events, like ICNC, are the places that you can make a statement, you can reach everybody through your brand marketing, and also you can organize and you can come up with great ideas and tools in order to generate leads and prospects because they are out there. The only problem with similar large events, and we've seen this also in North America and in other places, is that when you have so many attendants, 8,000 attendants this year at Intercharge Network Conference, I would say that's pretty amazing. So you do not have enough time to speak with everybody. So that's the problem that you need to do, and that's a little bit tricky when you're in marketing. You want to get the biggest return of investment. You want to maximize your impact, but you still have very limited time in order to achieve it. So Intercharge Network Conference, we've been there for 5 years, I would say, since I joined the company. We started with a small booth, we grew to a bigger booth, and when it came the opportunity, we became the platinum sponsor. So I think it's important that you go and get the most out of the relevant event and the people where you can meet in person your ideal customer profiles. That's very important from marketing point of view, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of online events. If you had asked me 5 years ago when COVID hit, I would probably wouldn't have imagined that we would be doing events with 6,000 people in 5 years. But now they're back and they're working more than ever. And I would say that people like to meet in person.
Absolutely. And it also feels like there are a few events during the year that are really worth it and everybody joins, and those are the ones you should attend, right? You should be there. If you look at the participation from a B2B marketing perspective, like to other marketeers that are listening, what would be the right moment in your journey to start sponsoring events like, for example, ICNC? If you start out, of course, it's a huge investment. It's great for your awareness, but at what stage would you start working with events?
It depends. It depends on the journey of the company. It depends on the product market fit, and also it depends on the event and also on the size of the investment. Like I started earlier, I would say that if you are in the very beginning, get the most out of the event, attend as many events as possible, do more business development rather than marketing on these events. But when you start and getting more and more traction, you need to start adding more marketing channels. You need to test and experiment. So probably you choose several events, go and track how they reflect, how that's working for you, and how this is supporting your brand awareness, how that's lifting your brand awareness, what they are adding to you, what they're proposing to you. So that's one way to approach it. I would never start if you're an early stage startup with similar sponsorships or you're putting big investments there, and you should be carefully evaluating channels and you should be deciding year by year. For example, from our experience, we never go to an event first with a sponsorship. We're always evaluating, attending, communicating, asking other people for feedback, and then we're deciding, okay, we're going to become a small sponsor there. Okay, we're a sponsor and we're seeing lots of crowd and audiences and good prospects there. We're tracking deals that are coming from this event. So next year we are becoming a bigger sponsor.
And so, Baycho, on evaluating the success of a channel in general, I remember like when we did the masterclass, you asked me like, okay, how do you think it went? What can we do better? You were pretty critical to yourself and your own team as well, and asking how I felt about that. And the same happened after ICNC. So I think that's really powerful. Like be humble, willing to learn from the experience. If you look in general at evaluating the success of marketing on different channels, like, is there anything you can share about that? Like, what would you advise other marketeers to do in terms of evaluation? So, of course, you have your KPIs and your objectives, but I feel you go much further than that. And that's really powerful to be doing. Is there any advice you can give there?
I would say that it's very important if you're working in marketing, first to know how you are measured. How in your organization is the success of the marketing team is defined. If you're a chief marketing officer or you're head of marketing, you should clearly know what does success look like for your team and clearly communicate what success looks like and translate it to all the other all the smaller marketing teams in your organization. That's very important so that everybody has the clarity, everybody knows where they should put their effort so that they can stay flexible and they can go the extra mile when it's needed. So you can change even smaller priorities quarter by quarter and you remain flexible. So there are times that when you're starting new initiatives, so you need to create always new content. You should always run new events. You should do new things in order to grow your brand, in order to reach new audiences, in order to attract more attention. But there are also times that when you should start working better what you've been doing now, what you've been doing the past quarter. You need to start optimizing, but you're still getting good results and you're getting better results. So it's very important to know how you are measured and choosing the right metrics. And the other thing that I would say is very important is that it's critical that you get also an objective opinion. It's very popular that when so the people in the company, the team that you're working with, your friends, your family and everything, they'll be always praising you. So because they probably don't know what you're doing exactly and how you're doing this, and they don't know what's lying behind it. So I have a saying that marketing is like football and politics. So everybody knows how to do marketing. But marketing is still difficult. There are lots of teams, channels, tactics, intersections, cross-department working with sales, with product, with customer success, with account management, with all the other teams. So I usually go back and speak with people that are doing marketing or that they're doing something else. And I'm trying to get an honest feedback what didn't work. Because from my experience, everybody is going to praise you for what worked well, but people are not that willing to tell you this didn't work very well. So you're watching the results going down, and you don't know what is going on. So this is very important. So that's the reason that proactively we need to speak with more people and get outside feedback in order to improve ourselves. So, for example, when we're talking about benchmark, I'm trying to look for benchmarks outside of the EV charging industry. So we need to look at, for example, the fintech industry or other industries that are doing marketing best practices in B2B and enterprise. We can probably steal ideas, steal frameworks. We can use them. We can exchange ideas. I'm a big fan of what you just started yesterday with the eMobility marketing community. Looking forward to see how that's going to develop and whether people in the eMobility industry are going to share marketing best practices. but we are the ones responsible to bring the benchmark and the best practices from other industries as well. So
Exactly.
that's the thinking behind it. Metrics are important, return of investment is important, impact on revenue is important. That's how the marketing teams should be measured.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Baycho. And this, for me, this is also an important topic of the EMC, the eMobility Marketing Collective that we launched. We want to learn from each other, and I can really see the value there with somebody like yourself being part of the community, and we have some other really experienced people in there. We can learn from each other. We can discuss relevant topics, and we can even build a more powerful marketing function in the e-mobility industry, in my understandings. Yeah, great to have you there as well.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yes, of course, of course. Like I said, I really see that we need people like yourself with the experience building marketing over the past 5 years in your case. That's where you already build a lot of experience. Like, we are a young industry, we're all in this together, and we need to learn from each other, and that's what we're trying to achieve with the EMC. So yeah, we'll definitely see you in there, and it would be great if you would be open to be a speaker in the EMC sometime soon to talk about these topics, because I really see a lot of value there and think that people can learn from this. And I know that one of the hardest things being a marketeer is to get honest feedback. Like you said, your friends and family and even your coworkers will always be proud of the things you achieved. But it's really hard to get that feedback that makes you better, where you can learn from, like, the things you can improve. And I think you're a great example of somebody asking for that and trying to get that feedback all the time, because it makes you and your team a lot better. So
Yeah,
thanks for
and
sharing that.
let's make sure that we have somebody to ask for feedback when we're failing as well.
Yeah,
Because you
exactly.
can ask for feedback when things are going well, but you need somebody to give you feedback and to support you when also you're not doing that well. So having this circle of people that can give you this feedback is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, finally, it would be nice to look back at your time leading marketing at AMPECO, as we discussed. Like, what has surprised you most about B2B marketing and e-mobility? You also came from another industry, so e-mobility was a new industry for you, as most of us, like 5 years ago, and we're all learning these days. But yeah, if you look back at those 5 years, what has surprised you mostly?
I would say that what surprised me mostly was the difference of the maturity among the markets. So
Mm-hmm.
what I saw clearly at the beginning and also going forward is the mature and the developed markets and how we should be doing marketing there against all the emerging markets and the level of maturity and knowledge there. So this was very hard, because imagine that at Ampeco we are having around 200 clients from I don't know how many countries, but they're already more than 50 markets. So we are having clients from I would say every continent on the world. Even when we talk about countries in Africa or Southeast Asia or North America and Latin America. So it's been very difficult. So it's one thing that you are doing e-mobility marketing and TV charging marketing in Scandinavia, in Norway, or you're doing this in the Netherlands, France, or Germany. And also then you go back to Brazil, South America, or you're going to Singapore and Southeast Asia. So it's very different what you need to, how you need to prepare and package your value proposition, how you're presenting the company and everything. So that was one thing that surprised me for sure, and was I needed some time to adapt, but that's part of the marketing and sales strategy, how you approach this, the choice of
Yeah.
channels and how you're doing this. And the other thing that surprised me as well, and I'm still, how to say, surprised, is how supportive people are in the industry and how they're
Mm.
helping each other. I would say that it's not typical in B2B enterprise marketing or even other industries that the competition is so fierce and everyone is competing with each other. But in the e-mobility and the EV charging industries, I think people are understanding that the industry is very young. It's still maturing. The market is still growing, and they're united among common challenges. They're working towards policy making. They're working together about increasing the EV adoption. They're facing different challenges. And I would say the transfer of knowledge is something amazing that I've been seeing on events. I have attended probably 2 or 3 electric vehicle symposiums in California, in Oslo, in other places. I've been meeting people from Angola, Guatemala, Asia, and other people coming, and you see how the European e-mobility industry is going. They're sharing the insights, they're helping them and everything. And yes, one thing that totally surprised me, and I'm finishing with that, is that EV charging is probably one of the few industries where North America and US are behind Europe in terms of the development and the innovation. So that was something that really surprised me at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a difficult space because, like you mentioned, the maturity in every market is different, and you need to adopt that in your B2B marketing strategy. So I can fully understand the challenges you've been going through and still are probably today. Baycho, thank you for sharing all this information and your vision on B2B marketing and what you're doing with AMPECO. I really liked everything you shared. If people want to know more about AMPECO and want to connect with you personally, where can they find you?
Of course, they can find me on LinkedIn. So happy to connect. You can find me on LinkedIn. Drop me a DM. Let's have a chat. Happy to speak. Also, you can find AMPECO online using your favorite generative AI, LLM, or Google,
That's a
or
good one.
whatever you're using now to search in the internet. So I think
Yeah.
that everybody is changing now.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being here today, Baycho. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks, Theo, for the invite. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, great to have you. So for our listeners, thanks for tuning in and see you again for our next episode of the eMobility Marketing Podcast.